lovely day, day 43 of 66 days in a row. We are going to be hitting up, or we're going to be hand reading the villain today for day 43. And earlier on day 42, I had meant to look at my own hands, had BigtheBig instead. So this time, I definitely change it to WackyJuan. And you can see hands that go to Showdown have 4,000 hands to look at right here. So let's take a look and find some pretty cool looking hands. We're hand reading the villain, right? So what I would like to do is find some hands where throughout the different streets, the actions per street, we see some passivity and some aggression from me, so that we could see both from the villain as well, and kind of hand read our villain as they're being passive and as they're being aggressive, both. Let me see. Raise, check, raise, bet, call, check, call. What an interesting line. Aggression, aggression, aggression with some passivity, and then I just get passive and check call the river. So we're going to get to see what the opponent calls, bets, and then calls again, raises me on the turn, and then bets when I check to them on the river. This may be a very interesting hand. I hope I played it well. Oh, we might even be up against BigtheBig. We shall see here. Who's my opponent? Okay, we are up against BigtheBig, who is a winning player. Let's see here. 88, 12, 4, 2, 3, 9. So we have our ever-present split suit template. This one is for the villain's range. And of course, the #1 hand reading tool, besides Poker Tracker 4, Flopzilla right here. Let's whip out or bring up that hand again. Great, so you can see in this instance, I am in the small blind, just three-handed. I'm in the small blind versus a very loose aggressive and a good playing BigtheBig opponent right here. We open. He just calls. So we're hand reading the villain today, right? So we want to think about what is his calling range here. First off, when it comes to three betting, his three betting in the big blind is 14%. He calls two bets 13%. So we want to put him on a tighter range. We want to take a look at a range that has all of the strongest hands taken out of it, plus a lot of the good aces and some of the good broadways as well. We'll take some of those out, build a range that's roughly 14%. And then we'll also think about the hands that are worse, that aren't in the range, that he's possibly three betting as well. So we're looking for roughly 12, 13, somewhere around there percent. So if we do a call two bet, let's take a look at 17%. Just automatically start with that. So this is 17% range, but I really think because he does three bets so much, he's three betting at least through 10s, 9 or possibly just calling. He can three bet them. I believe he can at least. I bet he can three bet these as well. I bet he can three bet the ace 10. King Jack suited might three bet. So that's a good number of hands right there that are in his three betting range. Of course, some of these other ones, he could be semi-bluffing, three-betting, and these ace-deuce through ace-5, you know, that's what I like to three-bet semi-bluff with. So that might be in his three-betting range, but maybe he's just calling this time. And let's put him on, let's take a look at what the range is after all of these aces are in to see if he's calling that wide. It's a 22% range so far. What did I say here? He's been calling two bets 13% of the time. You know, I think he's a bit tighter. He might call with these. Let's definitely remove these ones here. Let's remove the queen 10. We can keep the king 10, keep that in. We want to keep all the pocket pairs in. If he's not three betting these, he's got to be calling these ones at least. Ace 5 right there. Let's keep all these suited aces in. Let's go with a slightly wider range, and he might be calling a little bit wider because for me, I do open raise out of the small blind quite a bit. So he could be putting me on a kind of a wider stealing range here, which he's calling slightly wider than his stats say he does. So I am good with this kind of range. Oh man, look how much that jumps up to 21%, but just by adding 4 offsuit hands here. We'll keep them in. We'll keep them in. He might be calling with all of these aces, thinking that because I could be raising with ace deuce, ace 3 currently, ace 9 through, you know, ace 4 beat ace deuce and ace 3. So let's put them in. Every one of his aces that he's not three betting, he's calling the best suited broadways, calling down to 6-5. I can see that. Possibly even down through, maybe not 9-7, but through 10-8. Possibly playing me in position as well. So let's put those in. So let's give him a 22% range. It does feel a bit wide, but really, if I think about the kind of player he is, I think all of these are absolutely possible calling hands for him. I mean, none of these are automatic folds other than those ones I thought of right away. Not automatic, but potential folds. But I do want to keep them in. So we're going to give them kind of a wider range at 22% here. And 292 combos. In SB versus BigtheBig BB, we open 2, 3 BBs. He just calls. Notes here. All right. So let's put him on a 22%, 292 combos. What is happening with my fingers? Now, what am I going to give myself? I do have a pretty wide range here. Opening out of the small blind is often 30% or so, 30, 35%. Let's see what he folds. I have this specific stat right here. Big blind fold to small blind steal. He folds only 45% of the time, so I can expect over half the time that he's actually calling me right now. I'm probably not open raising far too wide at this point. Hands like Jack 9, I'm probably just folding here. Jack 10, I'm probably raising, but Jack 9, I'm not. So let's go ahead and give myself that. Yeah, we'll just give myself a Jack 10 right here. I'm good with that. Ooh, nice. If we have the Jack 10, we just hit a top pair plus a backdoor straight, backdoor flush draw. But anywho, 10, 8, 4, club, heart, club. 10, 8, 4, club, whoops. Club, heart, club. Okay, so on this board, if we did just now hit top pair, his range, sure, he does have a couple of sets in it. He's got a few top pair hands as well with better kickers with the King 10, Queen 10 right there. Ace 10 and King 10 over here. So, but we have 73% equity versus this range, at least, at this point in the hand. So let's see what the action is. We check, so most likely we don't like it. How often does he fold? He folds to C-bets 54% of the time. And in position, he folds only 41% of the time. He does not like to fold. If I'm bluffing here, it's a rather wet board, especially for a calling range. I mean, we can see this range right here. He hit a good number of flush draws, open-enders right there. He hit some top pairs, pocket pair below, middle pair. He hit gut shots. He has overcards as well. I mean, there's a lot of cards that he's going to be calling me with. You can see we've already got him at 45%, if those are the ones that he's calling with here. So this probably isn't a board I should be bluffing at. So my guess is I don't actually have a 10 right now. Probably have a couple overcards, maybe an underpair like 9s or 7s or something that I'm not necessarily betting to get value. Because he folds 54%, I think I'm betting for value with all my good hands, at least betting half pot just to start building the pot. You can see I started with a full stack right here. He's got double X, 2X stack on him. So what happens now? He bets after we check to him, so if we take a look at here, his fold to C-bet, in position, his float is 89%. So if I have a really good hand, sure, I could bet out for value, but he floats so often, which in Poker Tracker 4, floating means you bet when you're in position and the pre-flop raiser decides to check to you. So it's like taking a stab in position when your opponent does a C-bet. And the fact that he, excuse me, woo. The fact that he floats so often, I could totally be checking with the intent to check raise with a killer hand right here, which is exactly what I do. Great. Make it almost 3x times his raise, and he just calls right here. So what floats and then calls the float on this board? And if you think about it, after his call, there's 550 in the pot. We have 4x behind. He could, because he has position, he could be slow playing with a set right now and not really letting me know right away with the 3-bet that he's got me beat. So I could say sets are possible, at least for this one street. If he has a set, I think he'll really wake up with some aggression on the turn right here. But I can see him just slow playing, lulling me into a false insecurity with a bet call. 2-pair could totally be doing that as well, thinking that possibly I have a set, or maybe I have an overpair that he's just slow playing and can get extra value out of me. So it could be a little bit of caution, a little bit of slow play with 2-pair. No overpairs in his range. Top pair time, all those random 10s, those are totally bet calling. Absolutely. Pocket pair below, sure, why not? They have a backdoor draw, backdoor straight draw. And if I did raise with an underpair 7s, 6s, or 5s, my check raise could just be a straight bluff and his 9s are good. And he doesn't like to fold that often to flop c-bets. So this guy really, he understands that people bluff big time pre-flop and on the flop. People start to get pretty honest on the turn and river. So he might call this with the intent of floating again if I check the turn, or just checking behind on the turn with some kind of a showdown hand to try to get to river cheap and beat my bluff. It's possible. So where are we at here? Pocket pair below. Yep, those can be betting and calling. Mid pairs now. All those random eights. Well, if you think about those mid pairs, sure, they have the mid pair. The 8-7 has a backdoor straight, two backdoor straights with the 5-6 and the 9-jack or 9-6. And of course, because they have a pair, they can hit two pair or trips on the turn. The ace-8 can hit, aces and eights on the turn. Trip 8. So yeah, I think all of those could be calling. The weak pairs now, everything below. Sure, they have some kind of, if he thinks that I could be doing this on a bluff, I think one street he could be calling this bet right here. Especially with the fact that I am pretty aggressive. I can bet bluffs. I do c-bet a high frequency on the flop. I'm not sure what his stat for check raising the flop might be. But I don't do it all that often. So check raises, I think, from me are often value, or I have some kind of a nut draw. Or some pretty good just backup equity with like a backdoor flush draw with an open ender, that kind of thing. I bet I could do it right now with a jack 9 of clubs. I could be making this check raise. He might know that about me, so he might call with those weak pairs. So let's keep them in. Not ace highs. Flush draws, yeah, I think. Let's look at the equity he needs. He only needed 23% right there. Flush draws, like, what if he has a flush draw with one overcard? Like ace 7 of clubs, that kind of a thing. Well, he has the overcard for 3 outs for the ace, plus 9 outs for the flush. That's 12 outs. That means he needs 24%, and he has 24% equity. He only needs 23. He can make the call with his flush draws right here. Open enders, totally calling right there. Don't see why not. He's already committed some money, and there's plenty to win behind if he does get lucky. And he's in position. He can always ditch on the turn if I make a big bet. Overcards, I'm not going to say overcards are betting. Well, overcard with a gut shot, sure, that's already included, but I'm going to take just the straight overcards. 2-card backdoors, I'm not going to leave those in either. And sure, all these flush draw, all these different combo draw stuff, gut shot plus, that's already included as the gut shot right here, so I don't have to worry about it. So we're saying that he's calling 53% of the time versus my check raise right here, which does make sense. It's about half the time, which is about how often he plays, flops and on the flops. So 53%, 127 combos. Oh, got it backwards. So if we think that if I am making a check raise with a jack 10, which I highly doubt it, I could be doing it with an ace 10. I could probably be doing it, not probably, be doing it with pocket queen, something like that. Or like I said, I could be doing it with a jack 9. So if I am just on a straight bluff with my check raise here, I have the flush draw, I have the open ender. My hand actually has 62% equity right now, open ender plus a flush draw. What if I had the jack 9 flush draw, backdoor flush draw with the open ender? Then equity drops big time to 45%, because as you can see, it's just not nearly as many outs. But we'll keep myself back on the jack 10 again. So if I do have top pair here, I have 65% equity versus this range, which has plenty of draws in it. 9 of hearts. Fun card. Wow, if that is my hand, I have an open and a straight flush draw now. Lovely, but what's the action here? I decided to lead out for a little over half pot, 50 cents above half pot, which tells me that, maybe I'm trying to make a cheaper bluff, not going just half pot, trying to size it a little bit bigger. But look how that board, it totally completed plenty of his draws, right? He now has sets and straights. He had sets already. Different 2-pair hands, over pair. He could have just now turned an extra flush draw with some hearts and stuff. Or does he not have hearts? No, I took his backdoor outs out. That's right. Yeah, but that 9 really helped his range big time. Doesn't really help my pre-flop open raising range, nor my check raising range on the flop. It definitely helps him a lot more. As you can see, because we still have top pair plus the open ender. It's tough. But what if I did have just pocket queens? So pocket queens, I still have the overpair 70%, but if this is his range, he has 29% equity at this time. Things are looking good. He can definitely continue in this hand. So I bet 325, giving him 27% odds that he needs. And he decides to min raise right here. Wow. And I just call. Interesting. I think if I had the Jack 10, well, no. If I have the Jack 10 of hearts, I'm definitely calling this. But if I had the Jack 10 of spades, no backup draw, only a top pair hand, I'm out of there. But I can see myself calling with a hand like that, of course. Or possibly actually bet shoving at this point. I could bet call just to play it a little tight, or bet shove for max fold equity, which I don't think I have any. I think because of the size of that bet and this board right here, he's not giving anything up. I don't think he is. So if he's not giving up at this point, he has straights in his range, yes, sets, yes, two pairs, yes, overpair. Are all of his top pairs making this raise? All those random tens that bet and then called, unless he wants to try to turn his top pair into a bluff, I really don't see a reason to raise any of these top pairs. Okay, Queen 10 is open-ended, so I'll probably keep that in his range. But really, actually, let's go ahead. Jack 10, oh, I said Queen 10 is open-ended. No, Queen 10 has a good shot. Jack 10, like I have, is pair plus an open-ender. So we'll keep these in his range. I don't think he's raising with a 10 with a king or an ace or a queen kicker. I really don't think so. So let's take those out of the range. Mid pairs, are those really raising right now? And they suddenly hit some kind of equity. Why not just call and hope I check on the river and then check behind to see a free, not a free, but a cheaper showdown. Weak pairs now, maybe as an open-ender, like the pocket sevens or 8-7 could, so we're not going to put them in. Flush draws now, are these actually going to raise? Why not? Well, no, he bet then he called. Why not bet, call, then 3-bet pre-flop? If he's willing to raise now, why not raise sooner and really put the pressure on me with his flush draw? Because now he only has one card coming. So let's not put... He only has one ace-4 of hearts in his range. I'm not going to put flush draws in his range. I'll think about it for a sec, but no, I don't think so. Flop flush draws? No. The turned flush draws. Let's put the turned flush draws. He suddenly hit his flush draw right here. Let's say that these are making the raise. Not the flop, because I think with a flopped flush draw with the clubs, I really think he would have bet and then 3-bet pre-flop. I mean, if he's willing to bluff with a flush draw, why not do it on the flop? And look, most of those are ace-high flush draws. Why not do it on the flop when there's still 2 cards to come, and then put max pressure early on when I could easily be bluffing before a card that helps me on the turn comes? Yep, so we'll say turned. No flushes? Nah. Open-ended? What are they? Pocket, so the low end. Okay, I definitely don't want to say all of these are raising here. 8 and a 7. A bottom pair. Open-ended, but you're open-ended to the low end. Those aren't raising. I mean, highly doubt it. 8-7 of clubs might, I guess, but I'm not going to say any of those low. Something with the jack might be doing it. So Jack 9, pair, plus open-ended. I think it's only the Jack 10s. I don't think Jack 9 is doing it. I think Jack 9 is just calling. Ace 7, no. I mean, these are the only ones that I can see him possibly making the play with. I mean, Jack 9's a weak second pair. I think he'd be raising with the top pair with an open-ender, not a second pair. Yeah, so we'll do that. I could totally be off base here, but we'll see. Gut shots, no, none of those are raising. If anything, they're just calling or folding. All right, so look at that. We narrowed him down to just 40 hands. Currently, if we do have the open-ended straight flush draw with a pair, our hand is only 38% equity because he has all top pair or better in his range. So things are really looking ugly for us right now. 32%, 40 combos. Alrighty. So things are not looking good for us if we do have the Jack 10. Not looking good at all. So he shoves, and then we just call. What is he shoving on the 7 of spades river? 7 of spades. So it completes the open-ended draws that he just had a couple of, the 10 jacks. It completes our draw. We have the straight now. We actually have the second nut hand. The only thing that can beat us right now is Jack Queen. A higher straight right now. My guess is really this is going to be a chop pot. We both have a jack at this point. I mean, I checked with the intent of hoping. My guess is I checked hoping he would bet this river. I doubt I'm making a crying call with a set. I mean, 7, 8, 9, 10. Really, he's only making this with a rivered 6 or with a river jack, right? I mean, that's got to be it. So, he's got a straight. I mean, I guess he could be doing it, but I mean, would those actually, if he has a set, are those actually going to be just making a smaller, thin value bet, or just checking behind on such a wet board? I did just call his raise on the turn, and that completed quite a few draws in my range. Man. Okay, 2 pairs are definitely not shoving all in here. So if any of these are, sure, I mean, I guess he could be shoving as a straight bluff with a 4 with a busted nut flush draw. So I will put 1 bluff in his range right here. But really, it's straights and sets, and I don't even see sets. I'm going to take a chance. I'm just going to go straights and 1 bluff in his range. Yeah, I mean, I would even be inclined to take that out, but I want to keep 1 bluff in his range right here. So if we do have just the Jack 10, we definitely need to be folding at this point. The equity of the range is 65% because everything is just a straight. All we have is a straight. No, I'm sorry. I apologize. We shouldn't be folding right here. We should just be calling, I believe, because the only thing that really beats us is the queen jack. And if we think about it, out of these 23 combos, he only has 12 combos. So 50% of the time he has the nut straight. The other parts of the time he has the under straights or we chop. So I think this is definitely a call at this point. So we'll put him on that range. 23 combos, 59% of the prior street's range. 23. Let's see what we have. My guess is jack and a jack. Jack and a 6. Oh man, I had the ace-6 and I still called on that river. When right now, as I hand read this right now, I really do think the only things that he's doing in this are jack high straights. He's not doing it with 10 high straights. So I think that was a bad call for me. Jack 8, I didn't have that in his pre-flop range. I guess he is calling down to there. If he's calling here, he's calling there. If he's calling queen 9, he's calling king 9, possibly 9-7, maybe even 10-7. So yeah, I had him. I was a little bit too narrow on his range pre-flop. So even though his 2-bet calling range so far up to this point, over 3K hands, has been 13%, he is actually capable of, oh wait, I don't know if it makes a difference. Let's just clear this stuff. Clear that, clear this. He is actually calling pre-flop versus a raise, probably at least a 24% range. If he's calling jack 8 suited, why not queen 8 and king 8? Well, queen 8, maybe not. Yeah, king 8 as well. If he's calling the jack 8, I think he's probably calling them, probably even calling 8-6 suited. So yeah, I think this is probably a better idea for his big blind call versus a small blind raise at 24% or so. Yeah. What an interesting hand, and I really do not like that river call right there. I think that was a check fold. It could have been before that hit right there. Okay, so on the prior street, I decided to bet 325, a little over half pot, and then he raised and I called. Well, I could have bet like right around half pot. I should have bet like $9 or even $8, kind of as a thin value bet with my under straight. And then, of course, if he had a jack, he would have shoved like that or just bet enough to put me in, and I would have folded and I could have saved myself whatever. If I would have bet $8, I could have saved myself $7.25 right here. Yeah, so that was a bad river call on my part. I'm really glad I did this hand reading practice on this hand because it's pretty obvious after hand reading that yeah, he only had that jack high straight on this board. So yeah, I'm really glad I did that. I was unsuccessful in hand reading him, but I think all throughout the hand, all of the narrowing that we did street by street totally makes sense. And if jack 8 was in the range, I think jack 8 would have remained through the river. Like I said before, on the turn, he could have been raising with pair plus an open-ended draws, which is what that, let's take a look real quick, which is what that was. So if he had the jack 8, pair of jacks, third pair, sure, but the jack gave him open-ended. Totally calling right there. I would have kept it in the range, and it would have been within his river range. And if that jack 8 would have been within the river range, he would have had more jack high straights possible, and then a fold would have definitely been in order on that river. Yep. Alrighty, y'all. Thank you very much for watching day 43 of 66 days of hand reading for the villain's range today, and come back later for day 44. Take care.